Hey, thanks for joining me. It's time to do this damn Spider-Man Artist Edition for Todd McFarlane. I recently had the opportunity to pick up a couple of artist editions, and I was going to get one. You know, I wanted to get that Jim Lee X-Men Artist Edition. I've been wanting that for a long time, and I did a video on it. I did pick it up, and it's the second time I've actually looked at that book. Several months ago, I'm going to say 10, 11, 12 months ago. I've already done a video on it with one of my friends who actually owned a copy, but now that I own a copy, I wanted to put it up on the channel again and just go over it again because I love Jim Lee's work on the X-Men. At the same time, they had released that John Byrne X-Men Artist Edition, and I've come to understand and respect the Claremont John Byrne era of X-Men. I'd read several of the stories when I was younger, but getting to see John Byrne's work in black and white was just something to behold. In a way, it kind of like diminished how much I loved the Jim Lee X-Men one, because seeing what John Byrne could do at what the level that he did it at, with the detail and the consistency and the technical skill level on a monthly basis, just it's unbelievable how good it is. So those were great pickups for me. But then I saw the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man Artist Edition, and they had it at a discount. I got these all off Amazon. I'm like, son of a bitch. I've already done a video on this one too. This is on my channel already from about 10, 11, 12 months ago from the same friend that had the Jim Lee book. He picked this up, my friend Richard, and I was just like, you know, I want my own copy of this thing. I really do. And so I picked it up, and so here it is. This thing, and my other good friend, Chuck Gibson, he's talked to me at length about how these damn artist editions are kind of a pain in the butt because they're so big. It's like, where do you store these things? You're lucky if you have a space to keep them in, because they're so big, and you start collecting a bunch of them. You start getting like, where do I keep these? And this Todd McFarlane one is actually a lot bigger. I mean, not a lot, but let's just throw down the Jim Lee one. You see the difference in height? Like, this one is big enough. And again, these are pages printed at the original art size. So when you get in here and start getting into the pages that they do, these are the 11 by 17 kind of standard American comic book pages that the original art was done on. I gotta even try and get these things. Another problem with these giant books is I've been repositioning my little arm here that holds my camera to back it away to get these things in frame. Such a pain in the butt. But these are original art size. So why is Todd McFarlane's so much bigger? Well, we'll see when we get into it. It's something that I didn't quite understand because I thought all American comic books drawn on 11 by 17. I think that is basically, for the most part, historically the way it's done. So why does this one need to be bigger? Well, we'll see when we get inside it. But good Lord, does it make it hard to store this thing. And again, position my camera. Like, it's so far back, like you can see on the video, like you can see the edges of my table that I draw on here. Normally you don't see that. It's much closer in. But we gotta get all the glorious work that Todd McFarlane brings to the table. I say this on all of these art books. It's such a blessing. It's such a neat thing when the inside front cover, they take and utilize this blank space. And a lot of art books, like whenever you have one of these things, let me grab one. It was just right here. I moved everything. Here we go. Lord help me. But like, I reviewed this book recently, and when you flip it open on the inside, here's this canvas. Nothing used. Nothing there. I mean, you flip open one page and there's one there, and then you get into it. Why not utilize this space for something? I mean, why not? Maybe an artist wants it to sketch on. I don't know. I guess you could come up with several different reasons. I love that in these books, they take a panel from one of the comics and blow it up. So it's much bigger than the original art record ever was. And so you can just kind of see the ink lines or the pencils or whatever it is in the kind of close-up detail that people who enjoy and appreciate artist editions are looking for. So, and the thing with McFarlane's artwork, I always remember when I was younger, it looked so, because he's got such a hyper-detailed kind of style. It is so clean and precise and crisp, but once you get zoomed in on some of these, you realize it's not that as crisp as you might think it would be once you see it at its original size. Now, again, this is blown up bigger than normal, but let's get cooking on this thing. Oh, Lord, I'm splitting pages right out of my book already. It's fun to always have these images blown up really big. Table of contents telling you what books, what pages. And, I mean, it obviously has a lot to do with the era of comics that I grew up in. But I've said this often. I like Spider-Man like anybody else. It's a great character. It's one of the absolute top-tier, best comic book superhero creations of all time. If you had to create a top 5, I mean, this could vary for everybody. But in terms of, like, pop culture popularity, what do you got? Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. What else reaches that level of pop culture popularity that has stayed that popular forever? You could be like Captain America, Wonder Woman, the Hulk. I would probably put above Captain America in terms of popular. Anyway, I'm just trailing off here. But the point is, what I'm trying to get at is that there's a lot of versions of Spider-Man, but my favorite version that I've enjoyed the most, more than anybody, is McFarlane's Spider-Man. Because this is the character he was born to draw. You either love him or you hate him. I don't know if there's anybody that's kind of like midway on him. Like, it's fine. I don't care. I don't know. It's just, McFarlane's Spider-Man is the one that, not that far from the first one I ever read, but it's the one that just made me go, good Lord, do I just love this guy's artwork. And this is like the perfect character merged with the perfect artist. So here we go. We're in the book. Now, a lot of the beginning of this book is his old, earlier work. These say they're dated April of 1988, so his older stuff. Now, it's certainly good. I am significantly less interested in this stuff. Once he starts becoming that much more stylized artist, where the reins were taken off, when he was given the opportunity to write his own stuff in that Spider-Man title on his own, that's when the artwork for me became something more than like standard, acceptable, fine, to like, wow, this is a whole other level. While we're looking at it, part of the reason we were talking about why is this book so big, like you can see, I love how they do color, full color, high resolution scans of these pages. So it actually looks like if you're a guy who's ever handled a real 11 by 17 piece of Bristol board and worked on it, like the white paper doesn't stay white. It turns this kind of faded color, especially the older it gets and depending on the level of care you've taken with it. But you know, this is an 11 by 17 minus the butchery that's taken place with the slicing across the top for when they photograph these things to reprint them, however they do it. But like, I've got an 11 by 17 board right here with a piece of my own artwork. You can see it just fits right in that space perfectly, right? So it makes you wonder, why in the hell is there all these huge gaps? Well, I guess what it is, also I was going to show you, like, so this is your 11 by 17. So that's your original artwork. And then, for anybody who's kind of curious, there's your size of a regular comic book right there. So artists draw on this size, and then it's reduced down to this size, and this is what you actually physically get to see. But I guess what the case is I've always heard of this art board that's called Twice Up. Never actually seen one. I never knew what the actual dimensions were. But as I understand it, there are some pages in here that McFarlane did on that Twice Up paper, and they are big enough to require to be printed on this bigger page to fill up this border. So the point of these books is to reproduce the artwork at the original size they were drawn on. So you can see it in, like, this is the closest you'll ever get to seeing the real thing. So in this case, with McFarlane doing some of those best pages he's ever done anything on, is on that Twice Up, well, you got to make the book bigger. Probably kicked the price up. That's fine. So that's why there's a size difference. And, you know, for anybody who's kind of wondering, why is there such a big border gap around the sides? So I'm not going to spend too much time on some of this early McFarlane stuff, except to stop and kind of look at some things that look kind of neat. Like, I like this tall, skinny border with the forest scene. Artists have to kind of develop a visual shorthand to indicate all kinds of textures and backgrounds and things to help get through a page so you can get things done on a timely basis. There's kind of like basic indications of a ground and some kind of like splotchy line work to show like bushes and stuff, and then some trees, and you got some clouds. It all works. It all reads. It all makes perfect sense. I am fairly certain this is not McFarlane inking himself, which is always an interesting thing that you don't see very often. I'm looking for an indication. I mean, it's got McFarlane here. So I'm not certain, and if anybody knows better, you can correct me, please. But I don't believe this is anything that's McFarlane inking himself. Once he gets to that level, it becomes a whole other thing. No, McFarlane art right there. But it does look different. I mean, it could have been on these other pages someone else is inking him. But once you get into this, it suddenly starts to look like his thin line, noodly kind of art style. This is an interesting page where it's clearly to me looks like it's a photograph from who knows, where they put that on the background, I'm guessing, and then he drew this picture of Spider-Man, and then what do? They cut it out and paste it on top of that background. It sounds like a tedious kind of use of time, but it's better than drawing the cityscape, I guess, right? It's one of those weird things where I don't mind it, I don't care, but it sure stands out as different. I wonder what that looks like in the printed comic. I mean, whatever, right? It's just a weird thing, but it is interesting. That has always been one of the coolest images of Spider-Man. That angle, it's all about the angles. Head, the body's cranked this way, the arms are coming down, and then this leg kicking this other direction. We see the flat bottom of that foot. Gives a sense of motion. He's swinging one way, but kicking another way. There's a lot of weight and power and movement behind it. And it's kind of a funny thing. Like, my brain, if I were to draw that, would struggle leaving that bottom of the foot white, because the entire costume is supposed to be black. But that's how you kind of, if you make it black, it kind of becomes a silhouette shape and might look kind of goofy. But that white flat bottom of his foot, it just works. But I know if I were to draw that, I would be like forcing myself, don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it. And I just want to go in and touch it and blacken it in. Some of the early Venom early Venom artwork. I'm one of those guys, I've said it once or twice, where I don't like Venom's long slobbering tongue, which I think Eric Larson added to the character, and it's become like an identifying major characteristic of Venom. I didn't like the tongue. I liked it when he just had this evil grinning Cheshire grin. I think that's a better, more streamlined version. I just got sick of the slobbering tongue. But I'm in the minority there, so that's fine. Anyway, these are all kind of fine pages. Drawing Spider-Man in that black costume is fun. That's a good hand coming forward. I think I remember in an interview, somebody please correct me, where McFarlane was talking about he wanted to get Spider-Man back in his classic red outfit as soon as possible. I don't think he liked the black costume. I don't think, because he wanted to draw the classic version of the character, which I get, 100% get. You love a character, and you get to draw him. You want to draw the iconic version of him. And that black costume it's funny because the red and blue costume on Spider-Man, like, flawless costume design. It's perfect. Any alteration on it might be better, might be worse in little bits and pieces, but ultimately you come back to the main costume and it's perfect. I have to say, the black costume almost is perfect. Much more streamlined, but just black with the big white eyes, the big white spider, and then the white thing on the top of his hands. In my opinion, almost as good as classic red and blue Spidey. So it's interesting to get two iconic designs from the same character when they're very different. So yeah, all good stuff. Look at the yellow page here. Somebody's smoking or got this sitting in the sun with UV rays or something like that. Makes you wonder kind of how some of these pages got taken care of. I know a lot of artwork gets in the hands of people who didn't know or care about the value of it. It's just something they liked, but they never thought that it would be valuable to anybody, anytime, anywhere. So they didn't really give a shit how it's taken care of. Look at the contrast between these two pages. This one's been taken care of. Very clean. This one, just that ugly yellow. But again, this is kind of it's the McFarlane era. It's good, but I'm not interested in dwelling on it too long. just because, you know, I don't need this to go forever. Oh my God, Spawn shows up. What the fuck? Oh my God, that's so great. Spawn Spider-Man. No, it's the Prowler. Okay, well, you know, I keep dreaming. I keep trying to manifest into existence a Spawn Spider-Man crossover drawn by McFarlane. It would be the biggest comic of the year, bar none, instantly, if McFarlane draws Spider-Man again. And I feel like he's not completely against it. You know, he's like, hey, bud, I want to draw Spawn. Spawn's my character, but I don't want to draw for the competition. But I'm like, dude, if you're drawing a Spawn Spider-Man crossover, like, it benefits you all. Rising tides raise all ships, right? Gives Spawn more visibility. It gives Spider-Man more visibility. Gives Marvel Comics some visibility and cred, which I think they need. See, look, right here is just basically it. Tell me that's not Spawn right there. All he needs is the collar going up. I just wish. So come on, McFarlane. He's like, hey, bud, I got my millions of dollars. I don't need to do that. I'm like, I know you don't need to do it. It's not for the financial gain. It's because you like your fans and you want to give your fans what they want to see. That's where my kind of mindset and my feelings go. Give the fans what they want. And I know you want to do your own character. You want to do Spawn. That's great. But just once, before you die in a car crash or you get too old or your eyesight fails or you have a heart attack suddenly, just draw the Spawn Spider-Man crossover, please. Just give it to us. You write it, fine. You have to draw it, though, McFarlane. No Greg Capullo's. Greg Capullo's an absolute master badass. Don't get me wrong, but it's not just the characters meeting. It's the McFarlane drawing Spider-Man that is the hook, the clincher. For me, it would be like Jim Lee going back and drawing X-Men one more time. I would love that. Good, you know, straight on city shot. Look at that shot of Spider-Man hunched over with the gargoyles up there on the, you know, the rooftop. It's starting to get into the McFarlane vibe. I mean, it's all kind of here, but pretty damn good shot. It's kind of interesting. I like these. I don't know if it's going to show up, but I've mentioned this before, how on some of this stuff you can see the underlying blue pencil line work. And I work in blue pencil, though I believe it's a different blue. I got a coal erase, erasable colored pencil blue. I think these guys used the non-photo blue lead because you can draw in the blue and then you can ink it, and then when you photo it, the blue doesn't reproduce, so you just got the black line work and it helps you kind of minimize the time. That's my understanding. So it's always kind of fun to see these blue lines. Like you can see them all through here. I heard Eric Larson say once that he didn't like those non-photo blue pencils because the lead was a kind of like a waxy material and it kind of fucked up the inking when you're working on top of it, which I had never even considered, but it seemed like a reasonable kind of opinion to me. Excuse me. Good Spider-Man shot there. And McFarlane does a lot of these, like, hopefully we get to see a bunch of them, these extreme angles, like with the body down in the distance and coming towards us. It's a great shot when you have a character like Spider-Man. Extreme angles, amplifying the spidery aspect of it. This is a good shot too. I like that kind of swinging away and then the city shot there. McFarlane's never been the guy to draw the hottest girls you've ever seen. We'll leave that to the Jim Lees and Mark Silvestris in kind of this era at Marvel Comics. But they're fine. All good stuff. That's a kind of a weird oblong-shaped head, but look at the frickin' cape. There's your McFarlane right there. That is so cool. It's kind of awesome up there, but that shot, spectacular stuff. So neat. The New York Library with the lions, like you see him at the beginning of Ghostbusters. That's my only reference because I've never been to New York. But that's a pretty detailed page. Give it to McFarlane, man. Like, he's going for it. It's funny, this page is signed Todd Webbs McFarlane. That's kind of funny. Good angle on Spider-Man there. Lots of blue pencil all over that page. Again, into some heavy dark shadow, moody kind of lighting. The head with the hands. That's a pretty solid page with the figures. I like that. That looks really good. Just more fun stuff. Just kind of zipping through these. Another crazy yellow page. Look at that shot. I mean, is that like the first like big Spider-Man image in this book so far? I'm not saying it's the first one he's ever drawn, because this is not a collection of every page he's ever drawn. But that's kind of like where it's starting to jump out, where McFarlane's like, we're going to do big, crazy, jumping shots. And then that city background. It looks like, I'm not going to get out a ruler, but I can see some of these perspective lines don't look like they converge on the same vanishing point. Like maybe he kind of got off, or it started to drift as he was working on it. But it kind of doesn't matter, honestly. Like, you get the point. There's Spider-Man, webs everywhere, high perspective on the buildings. He's up, swinging around at extreme heights. That's all I need, It doesn't have to be so perfectly, flawlessly, perfect. It just needs to be dynamic and interesting and fun, and I'm on board. Look at this page. I mean, again, it's such a perfect photo of or a scan of the original with the wavy kind of edges where it was cut up, and you can tell this thing was pasted up, and then all these little spiders were pasted on there. What a pain in the ass. And we were all spoiled with the digital effects that we get to employ with the stuff that we do. Interesting kind of lines in the hair here. Looks like they faded. Might have been some crappy bullshit Sharpie that fades over time, so it turns that ugly color, as opposed to like a nice good India ink, which stays black all the time. There we go. There's some Venom. It's another, a great shot of like Venom and all these, this extreme angle with the perspective on it. That bottom white foot. Big smiling grin. Looking great. Like that shot of Spider-Man jumping right there. There's another one. This is one of my favorite shots. This long, skinny panel. And this shot of Spider-Man climbing up. It's kind of like that other one we were talking about, where I was talking about the perspective of going into the distance and coming up towards you. Kind of the same-ish image, just flipped the other way, a little bit bigger. I love it. It looks so good. In fact, every shot of Spider-Man on here is awesome. Kind of your classic web-slinging shot there, and then just another angle. Trying to come up with different poses, and then taking the city shot and tilting it on its side up like this. Just makes everything feel like off balance and a little bit more movement and energy. Can you imagine if this city was just a straight on shot? It would probably be fine, but that's the little bit of detail that an artist will add that just gives it that extra flair. Nice, good splash page. The comics are always fun when they start out like this. Big splash page and then a big title. Just get you right into the story. Look at this shot of Spider-Man, crouched over on top of all this garbage. McFarlane knows how to do like noodling, nonsensical garbage background stuff, and it works. Pretty damn good shot. Look how they chop the shit out of those pages. That's pretty awesome. Another, this is one of those things where it's like a photo. Like, this is not drawn by anybody. This is like a photo ran through a copy machine, maybe. I'm guessing. I don't know. I think that's the process where you take a photo and you copy it, and then you copy it again and copy it again. It kind of like gets it down to its kind of basic black and white shapes. The only thing with a shot like this, I guess it depends on how high up they are at what part of the city. But this high up, what is his web attached to? I know people talk about that, and I certainly do. I guess there could be another skyscraper that's taller than everything. We're not necessarily at the highest building ever, but it's a good page either way. Again, I'm just kind of fascinated by how much blank space is around the edges of these. Once we get towards the back with the twice up pages that just fill up everything, it's when it just becomes this whole other thing. These things kind of look small and squished. They're awesome, but they don't carry that dynamic look that we're about to get into. Great page, just big 3 panels, lots of crazy textures. Look at that weird looking foot that he inked down there. You get to the bottom of this drawing after doing all this texture, and you're like, fuck, just cross it out. Good shot on Spider-Man there. Like, close up with the head, the shoulders, the chest muscles. That looks great. Venom, splashing him down in the water. Great movement. McFarlane does water really well. I've always thought liquids and fluids. Great shot of Spider-Man getting smacked there. Look at that. Another good extreme angle. Like McFarlane, this is the kind of a thing that he's really good at, to give it that sense of height and scale. I know I keep hearing a lot of people talk about, like, McFarlane was never that good of an artist. He was just all about style and cool. And I see what people are talking about, but then I see the things that he does. I'm like, this is a good artist. He's penciling and inking this, doing all the details. It's clear enough storytelling. I don't know. Like, what more do you want? Like, there's going to be other technically precise guys, but are they as fun? Arguably, it's hard to beat the fun factor when McFarlane was drawing Spider-Man. That's a great shot. Great jumping shots. Just so fun. This is why I like Spider-Man by McFarlane. That's why he's my favorite. Even the bad guys, doing kind of designy elements with his tail whipping around like that. Good shot of Spider-Man kicking Scorpion there in the right in the spine. He should be paralyzed. And now Spider-Man calls himself Shadowhawk. Good stuff. Let's keep going. Look at that great, big, awesome shot of Spider-Man. I mean, you could be like, it's just a bunch of big swinging shots, but they're all different poses, and they're all just so damn good. It looks so great. Even these legs folded up there, swinging forward. To me, it's like a way of showing, like, Spider-Man kicking his legs forward to get some momentum to swing. It works perfectly. And, you know, his powers make him flexible. I'm kind of on board with it. Here, you know, McFarlane's trying to do some sexy babes. They're not bad. It's certainly not bad. Probably the final page of a book. Is that the Paladin? Is that the name of that boring-ass character? There's another shot where all the black was inked in with something, but it's faded and ugly and terrible looking. You know, maybe Sharpie. Maybe it's all he had at the time. I think the lettering on this word, ceremony, that's pretty neat. Looks like it was done by hand. Like, McFarlane's doing it all. I'm assuming that's McFarlane. I don't know, but when it's part of the original artwork and the art's integrated into what's being drawn, I don't know that Letters is doing that. Good pages, good close-ups. It's always one of those things where Spider-Man would be drawn by McFarlane and the mask looks flat. Like in this panel, Spider-Man doesn't have a nose, but it still kind of works somehow. Like, look, he's literally got no nose. But sometimes drawing the nose in the mask gets a little weird looking. Great, another shot. Another just big shot of him, you know, swinging on those webs. And you can look up close at it and see the pencil line, see some whiteout marks in the cleanup on it. Oh, just really, really neat. Let's keep bouncing. Extreme close-up. It's like McFarlane, you know, his predilection for doing incredibly high amounts of detail sometimes, I think, bites him in the ass. So this is a hand stamping a piece of paper. He did not need to throw in all these ridiculous bullshit lines on there. And this hand looks like a big, like, elephant claw hoof or something like that. It doesn't look like a human hand. I mean, it reads, but this just, it's just unnecessary lines. You didn't even have to waste your time. Just kind of draw and give a little kind of rough texture if it's made of wood. Just, you know, and move on, like, be done. But all that extra line work, I think, kind of makes it hard to read. Like, what am I looking at? Love that upside down Spider-Man. He always does these big, great close-up of the faces, like at a, it's like a, not even, it's not a profile, but like a back three-quarter view. That's a tricky shot. Oh shit, there's Hulk. Hell yeah. Something bumpy on this book. It's funny. Anyway, Hulk. A lot of people like McFarlane's Hulk. I've only seen a few images of it. I think I've read this actual issue in real time. More of that faded ink. Good shot of Spider-Man up there. Guessing he's on the Statue of Liberty. In rain. Look at this. I've always liked versions of Spider-Man where it's heavily shadowed, giving him kind of a scary, ominous look, but then those big, bright bug eyes. I mean, Spider-Man's a very happy character in general, but darken him up like that, and it suddenly becomes, Gives them a whole new kind of dimension that I like. Hulk throwing around cars. Another awesome glory shot of Hulk there, or rather Spider-Man. There's the Hulk. That rough kind of scratchy border. It's fun to do if you can kind of get it right. I'm trying to learn how to do that. Yeah, just fly through some pages here. There's another one of these. How about this one? Remember I was talking about what is Spider-Man's webbing attached to? I mean, look how high up he is. And he's out and above the water. Like, there's the city, and this is like water. So, what has he got his web line attached to? An airplane, which is fine. It doesn't matter. It still looks great. And even these basic blocky shaped buildings in the background, it's just straight lines, and then you kind of blacken in some parts to make it look like some office lights are on and some are off. Reads perfectly. It works just fine. This is when Spider-Man had the, what were those powers? Captain Universe? Became like the most powerful being in the Marvel Universe. So he's taken out Hulk easily. Like, he punched him into space. Like, Hulk's up in orbit because Spider-Man punched him so hard he went up into space because Spider-Man has these Captain Universe powers. Here's the inside front cover, or the inside front pages. This big giant image we were talking about for a second. There it is. It's just like, what, 2/3 of a page blown up to this massive size. So neat to see it that big. I like this shot of like the shadowy Hulk standing in front of the Spider-Man. Anyway, we're getting into the Spider-Man stuff. Now, the pages are still... No? Getting that 11 by 17. You remember how I showed this one of my own artwork here before, how the other artwork lined up perfectly. But now look at this one. It's just... It goes all the way up. Like, you can see the blueprinted kind of Marvel sheets here. So this page is now the full, I guess, the twice up stuff. But McFarlane is limiting himself, for the moment, I guess, to keeping the art within a certain kind of trim area. So it's a little bigger than it's been before. But I wonder if we get into some stuff where it's full bleed, like right off the page. I always appreciated the first Spider-Man series, the, what was it called? Torment. Because I had never read anything that I recalled up to that point with the lizard in it, but I was aware of the character, and he seemed like a boring douchebag, who cares character. But McFarlane turned him into like this dangerous, mindless, bloodthirsty, murdering monster. And suddenly, I was invested. Now, there's something about these pages. Darker. I don't know. It's, McFarlane likes dark stuff. So when you give him the chance to write. So now the lizard is a scary monster. He's ripping people up. Big, heavily shadowed hands. Blood and guts. Look at this guy. Points the gun. Just blows him away. There's blood everywhere. And again, now these pages, because you can see the blue kind of pre-printed stuff on the pages is all the way to the edges of the border. So all that kind of quote-unquote wasted space is now extended out. So the drawing's just to get to be bigger. Another great shot of Spider-Man swinging around. This is just McFarlane just becoming peak him. And I was kind of late to the game. I've talked about this before, but I had seen McFarlane's work, but I hadn't been paying attention to it because once I started paying attention to artists in comics, I was kind of paying attention to the Jim Lee and Mark Silvestris and eventually Liefeld, but I hadn't been paying attention to McFarlane. I'd read the stuff and was enjoying it, but I was just more enjoying the story I was reading. I wasn't paying attention to the art. It wasn't until my older brother told me that, hey, in this Spider-Man book we've been reading, Ghost Rider's going to guest star. And I was like, well, who cares? So what? And he's like, Ghost Rider drawn by this artist? It's like my older brother, who doesn't have an artistic bone in his body, was pointing out how good the art was. So I'm like, wait, hold on, let me see. And so it took that kind of wake-up call for me to understand how good and dynamic and interesting McFarlane's art was. And once my brother pointed it out, my older brother, not my younger brother, suddenly I was like, oh, yeah. What am I, stupid? How did I not notice this? Like, It was a magical time in comics for me because they were just starting to take off. You're at Spider-Man, Uncanny X-Men by Jim Lee was going, Wolverine by Mark Silvestri, New Mutants by Liefeld. It was all becoming this incredibly magical, fun stuff. And I just kind of missed this for a bit. This shot of Spider-Man, the head, the shoulders coming up with the arms, I think that's so well drawn. How a lizard is kind of concealed in shadows. And then the foot, boom, kicking the lizard, knocking him back. And it's kind of indecipherable. You can't make heads or tail of much of what you're seeing. Hand there, arm, hand, shape. Kind of a leg, I guess. This lizard tail and the texture on that is really good. But it reads enough to show that this spike is basically impaling him and blood going everywhere. And I like that it's kind of abstract and hard to read. It gives it kind of an interesting dynamic look. I really love the shadows on this foot up here and the textures on that tail. Yeah, man, McFarlane, he knew what he liked to do. And then he loves to do extreme close-ups of things in long, skinny vertical panels. These hands, these fingers, I think this is so well drawn. It reads, but if you don't do it right, you could really screw it up and not know what you're doing. Also, this shadowy Spider-Man head in the rain, but he's got this headache and this pounding in his head that won't go away, which was going on in the storyline. And so he's being tortured, but then the lizard keeps attacking him. He keeps thinking he took him out and killed him, but the lizard just keeps coming and he won't go down. So Spider-Man is being put through his paces. I kind of enjoyed this original story. These super fine lines. I remember looking at these once I was paying attention. I'd go back and look at the stuff that I, hadn't kind of, paid attention to and focused on. I'm like, how does these artists get these fine lines? Well, I guess I kind of understand now because this twice up paper, and then if you get a nice sharp Hunt 102, which is what I believe McFarlane would ink with, and if you know how these things work, you can get all kinds of varying line weights, especially with a brand new sharp tip. You can get some really thin lines. You can just get these lines in here and just start noodling away and just adding all these details that McFarlane loves to do. I get it. I don't know if he ever uses a brush except to fill in blacks in this era. I don't know. But I just know that I've seen him inking with one of these. And it just has the life and liveliness of a real line drawn from a dip pen rather than like a technical pen. So I'm pretty sure this is what McFarlane uses as one of these tools when he was drawing like this. He's all digital now and been digital for years. So there's no more new artwork on original board being created by him. That actually makes me sad. This shot of Spider-Man, he's been beaten, tossed down into the alleyway, surrounded by rubble and debris and garbage. It looks so good. All the details are there. So great. More long, skinny vertical panels and close-up on things. Whole pages of this. It's so hard to fit in storytelling on panels like this, but man, does McFarlane know how to make it work. And then, it probably doesn't show up too well, I'm not sure, but you can see how these white stringy lines of hair is like some kind of white media used to go over the black line. I use gel roller pens like these. They draw over black pretty well. That you can't do a big broad flat surface with them, but you can do touch-ups and little lines, and you can get in here with these things and kind of just noodle in these white lines on top of the black hair like he does here. It's really convenient. It works pretty well. It's not doesn't solve all the problems with needing like something white to draw on black, but it's pretty good. So good stuff. But yeah, this is all that twice up artwork. Big stuff. Long, skinny vertical panels. They're so hard. I always liked this shot, this kind of sort of half silhouette of Kraven the Hunter. When I was reading Spider-Man, I had heard of Kraven the Hunter. I was aware of the legend that Spider-Man would speak of with Kraven in the comics, but I'd never actually read a story. All I knew is there was some story where he almost killed Spider-Man. And so this was like an ominous, like this guy who's dead at the time and gone, but almost took out Spider-Man. Really kind of intense and kind of like, oh, it's just so kind of ominous and powerful. It really added to the lore in my head of this guy, of a story I've never read, and this horrible battle that the hero went through and almost died, but he eventually prevailed. But this, like, the presence of this character, Kraven the Hunter, is still with him. Always love this top panel, because Spider-Man was bound with his arms behind his back, and he got pissed off, and he snapped him. And the motion and the pose and the angle on this, perfect. And again, I love the big hand up here in the foreground, the lizard jumping towards him. It's funny how McFarlane did this same image again with the Spider-Man foot kicking, sending lizard. He did this exact panel in a page a little bit ago. It's fine, it works. Very McFarlane right here. The big, giant half face. I kind of love it. And again, I can just tell, just getting in here, I can see, with this being the original size, just how he gets in here with this pen. And just, you do these ink lines. And McFarlane, he just figures out the drawing in the inking stage. He just kind of intuitively just goes where he does a light pencil sketch. This is words from his mouth. And, a light pencil sketch to kind of get the basic idea. But he doesn't do all this detailing in pencil. He just waits to do the inking part. And then he just, adds the rain and the ripped up mask, the broken eyes on the spider, the patch of hair coming out, the fire. And he's just inking with these pens. And I just love it. It looks so good. Look at all these pages. Close-up of his face, gritting his teeth, jumping out. Again, the heavy shadows on the Spider-Man figure, right? But I love this shot with the eyes on the Spider-Man mask. They're cracked and broken, kind of like they're made of glass. But then his teeth, because the mask is ripped. I love that. I love everything about that shot. I like the reverse silhouette of the lizard there. And then McFarlane leaning into that designy panel layout stuff. Like this panel, like the border it's just blacked in, so the black from this one panel bleeds into the black of the background, so it comes down here. They almost could be read as one image, but then this girl's little fur diaper thing kind of travels off into the panel over here. Spider-Man's headshot is just breaking the border over here. Great shot, again, with the hair popped out, shattered eyes on the mask, his mouth is exposed. Like, Spider-Man's getting his ass kicked. I love it. I'd never seen anything like this in a Spider-Man comic before. I was just super into it. And then all the rubble and debris. God damn, it was McFarlane good. Let's turn a page, please. Oh, Lord. Double page spread. Ghost Rider. Got your Spider-Man, got the stupid Hobgoblin. Ghost Rider blasting in. And the flames and everything. It's just maximizing the use of the space that you've got on the board there. Fan-freaking-tastic. I've talked about this, but you look at this and you start seeing more of the influence of what Spawn will be in Todd McFarlane's design, interest, and elements, and design. Tattered cape character with bug eyes. I like this Ghost Rider riding up fast. I guess the idea is that Ghost Rider's going to kill this Hobgoblin guy. Ghost Rider's going to take him out. But Ghost Rider can't see that he's got a child in his arms. So Spider-Man, he's like freaking out. Don't plow into the Hobgoblin. Because Ghost Rider would not put an innocent child in harm's way. But he doesn't know the child is there. So it's an interesting take on a kind of standard comic book trope of like bad guys fighting good guy. But good guy doesn't see the kid. Works really well. But yeah, this just looks like, early Spawn stuff. You can see where McFarlane's interests were going to be going. Always love this big shot of Spider-Man right here. In fact, I think it's the end page image at the very end of the book on the inside back cover. Again, just you can see all these lines that you could just see how he'd be throwing these lines in here, just inking with this tool. Maybe, I don't know if some of these lines back here are a brush. I love that kind of textury look. Big close-up of Spider-Man's ass right in front of our face. I like this kind of sketchy kind of way of rendering Ghost Rider there. It's weird. I don't get it, but I do like it. One of my favorite storylines Because I've talked about this on my channel, but I think the Wolverine guest starring issues of Spider-Man that McFarlane did, I think it was a 5-issue series. I think it was the 3rd issue of this run that McFarlane did where Wolverine's guest starring with the Wendigo and all that. The 3rd issue was the first time I bought a comic for myself. And I say that because my older brother and I, when we were younger, our dad would just give us money to buy comics, and they just kind of belonged to my brother and me. We could both look at them anytime, and we would both enjoy them forever. But at some point, as we got older, and we just kind of become little douchebag boys, like often happens, my older brother kind of took possession of them all and acted like they were his and would not let me have access to them. And I was the burgeoning artist, and it pissed me the fuck off. And so I was eventually like, Dad, can I have my own money to get my own comics? He's like, sure, son, here you go. So I went out and bought the first comic I ever bought on my own was the 3rd issue of the run of the Spider-Man Wolverine Wendigo crossover. And my older brother was like, well, why did you get that? I already have it. I'm like, because you fuck nuts, you won't let me look at it. I want my own comics. And he's like, that's stupid. I'm like, well, you can go fucking suck my left nut. So that's why when I see this Wendigo image, I'm taken back to that time in whatever, 91 is it? I'm just like, that's when I started collecting my own books. It's far from the first comics I ever read, but these were mine. And I started with the McFarlane Spider-Man. Look at that shot. That is so damn good. I have tried to reproduce this when I was younger. I remember trying to get this head and then the arm coming this direction with the hand bent down like that, and the other arm going into the distance with the hand spread open, and then figuring out the foreshortening on this leg coming forward with this foot. I kept trying to get it for years, and I could never figure it out, because I was doing it not by looking at the McFarlane and trying to copy it. I saw it, and then I'd put it aside and trying to reproduce it from memory, and I would just fail miserably. But that's how you get better. That's how you learn. You just keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. I love the double page kind of spread. Spider-Man swinging across the city. I like this heavily shadowed version of him dropping into, his apartment. Great stuff. This panel was interesting because I always felt like this figure looked like he was missing fingers. And he's not. You got a thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky. It's all there, but it just read like he's missing a fucking finger. McFarlane's not the best at drawing hands. Sometimes he'll nail it perfectly, and other times looks like a weird mutation. And it was funny because in the story, there's this goofball that Peter Parker's meeting up with. He's pouring ketchup on donuts. And Parker's like, you're not going to eat that, are you? He's like, yeah, I love them. More of that Wendigo. And then the background, the forest, all the trees and plants and bushes and stuff. It's so dense and detailed. I love it. And then this, I think, I wish I could remember the issue. I think this might be the one that I started collecting, or it might not be. I can't remember. But I remember looking and loving this shadowed version of Wolverine kind of bent over as he's kind of sniffing the dirt, trying to track down what's going on. The silhouette of his eyes and his mouth with the tree branches in front of it. And this weird-ass drawing with these, just the silhouetted lines that he put in here. Sometimes he does this weird kind of technique and it works, like I think does here. Sometimes he does it and it doesn't work at all. But I don't know why. It shouldn't work, but it does. I don't know. I shouldn't like it, but I do. Another great, essentially splash page of Spider-Man swinging around. This page and this page. There was that issue of the Spider-Man with this run, for whatever reason, where McFarlane had to get some assists on inking. And you can see these pages are back to their regular size for whatever reason. He's not using the twice up like he was on these others. He went down to a smaller size. Maybe it's because he knew he was handing it off to another inker. But this has got Magyar? I got to remember how to pronounce that guy's name. I know it's in the credits. I think it's going to be listed here. Rick Magyar. I'm sorry if I'm just butchering. I'm looking for it here. Spider-Man. Rick, Magyar. Magyar. if I'm saying that. I remember not knowing who he was, and I think I've mentioned it on my channel, and some other people have mentioned that guy has done work for this, and I wish I could remember what that was, but I just do remember once somebody said he's done work for this, I'm like, oh, that's a big deal. This is not a nobody. But it gives McFarlane's work a different vibe. It's not that same nonsensical noodling that McFarlane does. It's a little bit more lush, in a way, more feathering. That hand does not look great, but that's probably McFarlane. But this shot of Wendigo slamming Wolverine down, it's just a different vibe. And I remember reading the books, and it didn't tell you in the credits that there was different inkers. But I remember looking at some of these pages going, something's different. And then years and years later, we find out there's a different inker. Well, it might have been even the next issue. They listed inkers, but they didn't tell you what pages. This one, inked by Scott Williams of Jim Lee X-Men fame. This one never stood out to me as being that different. Like, this one felt like different artwork. This one, not so much. But once you know Scott Williams did it, and you go investigating that line work, it suddenly became apparent to me, as a guy who, I do draw and I do kind of pay attention to this. I think just the average guy who just reads comics probably wouldn't know. But the artistic, creative types, you start noticing that stuff. And I'm like, it feels like Scott Williams line work. Clean, sharp, precise. I would love to know what McFarlane's pencils look like. How much of a finish level was on these pages when McFarlane handed this off to somebody. It would be so fascinating to see what that looked like. It'd be great to ask Scott Williams and be like, hey, what level of finish was on this? I imagine not too much. I mean, obviously you'd have the face and all the body kind of elements figured out there. Maybe that's why McFarlane was in a hurry and he did this bullshit kind of like inward cross-hatching thing just to get through the figure, so he didn't have to draw all the webbing and the body anatomy. He could have just blacked it out. Either way, Scott Williams inks there. These two pages are done by comic book master genius Lord and Savior Liefeld. But to be fair, it's kind of fine. I would die to see what these pencils look like before Liefeld got his hands on them. And it doesn't, again, when I was reading these, it didn't stand out crazy different. Like those Rick Magyar pages, something intuitively in me felt like something was not the same. I didn't notice it with the Scott Williams pages. I did not notice it with the Rob Liefeld pages. Then once you look at it, if you're familiar with Liefeld's inking hand and some of like this line work that he does in the backgrounds, these scratchy lines, you start to see it. You can see where his ink lines are coming in, especially on the leg here. These weird lines that he's cut coming down this way. There's no attempt to do any kind of feathering. It's not necessarily a must, but when you have that Rick Magyar stuff where everything has got feathering, that's what I mean by that lush, probably brush work, if I had to guess. But again, the Liefeld pages, they're kind of fine. I've heard that good inks cannot save bad pencils, but good pencils can be ruined by bad inks. And, these aren't ruined. They look kind of fine. I just love to know what they look like in pencil. This is another Scott Williams page. And again, it did not stand out to me at the time. But once you know that Scott Williams does it and you start looking at close at some of these lines, these long, I don't know if they're brush strokes, I'm guessing because there's kind of like a dry brush effect coming in through here. And some of these, maybe they're thrown with the 102. Like once you know it's Scott Williams, because it says inked by Scott Williams right there, and then Scott Williams signed it down there, you start recognizing those lines. And then we get back to McFarlane, this hyper detailing, all this stuff. I remember this image and I thought the mask was so damn cool. His eyes, I couldn't understand all these lines thrown everywhere. Like, it didn't make sense. Why are they there? But it was so damn neat to, again, burgeoning artist me. And then I saw all these lines in here. I kind of thought it was weird because it made him look so old. Like, he doesn't look oldish there, but that's because Scott Williams probably like restraining himself and not throwing in all the nonsensical noodling that McFarlane just does outside of the pencils. He doesn't pencil these in. He just kind of does it when he's drawing it. But he just starts throwing in all these lines, and sometimes you just kind of get into a vibe and you just start throwing stuff down. And you know, the curves of the face are following the anatomy. I just thought it was so cool looking. I thought the mask looked fantastic, but also kind of odd because he looked so old with all those folds in his face. Just fun, kind of the memories of me as a child and what I thought of these things. I like the down shot there. I like the grimaced face there. I like the shadowed face with Spider-Man giving him the thumbs up, and then off we go. We're going to go solve this damn problem. Great shot of Wolverine. Love the Spider-Man, heavily shadowed again with those eyes kind of glowing. What a great page. Would you imagine what this could sell for? 5 figures at least, probably 6. Fantastic. And again, McFarlane did something with Wolverine's mask I had never paid attention to. That's one of McFarlane's things. He has a way to like exaggerate certain parts of characters' outfits that were never done before. Like his mask here, Ghost Rider's flames, Batman's cape. Just doing these weird different things. Spider-Man's bug eyes and the webbing. This is another page inked by, I want to be sure. I'm pretty sure it says on here. Inks are Rick Magyar and McFarlane, but I feel like I was certain that this one was inked by that Magyar guy. Now I'm not for certain. Why was I so 100% certain that he did? I could be wrong. I could look at the credits, but I don't want to. Great double page spread. Crazy angle. It's just awesome. Always loved this shot. Poor Wendigo got shot with a bullet, and he's like a big dumb animal, and he doesn't understand why he's bleeding out and why he's in pain. And again, these lines to kind of throw like a weird shadowy thing. It's weird. It shouldn't work. Sometimes it doesn't work. I kind of like it here. I like the shot of him kind of hunched over at the water, splashing water on his face. This one, oh yeah, this one says inked by Magyar, and this one is too. This was always one of my favorite shots of Spider-Man. Such a big shot. I kept trying to reproduce this pose. I couldn't. Who could? You know, we all start somewhere. I still can't. Like, don't get me wrong. I like to draw, but I don't think I'm ever going to be successful like that. Good shots of Wolverine through here. Always like this because Spider-Man's giving Wolverine some lip, and Wolverine wanted to solve this murder mystery, so Wolverine's giving him 3 reasons. You know, Spider-Man says, give me one good reason why I should listen to you. So Wolverine slams Spider-Man up against a tree. He says, 1, snicked, gives a reason. 2, snicked, reason there. 3, snicked, right up to his nose. That little pursed lips right there of Spider-Man. And Wolverine, this silhouette shot of his mask and his eyes. Wolverine's like, you don't want reason number 3. Loved it. This shot, another great shot of Spider-Man. All these webs were drawn in with some kind of, I don't know, a jelly roller or white paint on a brush. And they're so random and rough. But reading this as a kid, it just reads perfectly. It's absolutely perfect. But you look at them up close and they're really rough. Speaking of McFarlane's Spider-Man work having like Spawn vibes, how about this Morbius pages? You know, this is McFarlane doing like underground monsters and mutated creatures that are ugly and vampires with long hair and torn capes and rocks and debris. Everything he wants to draw. And why not? He gets to write the story he wants, so he can place it in an area that he wants it to be. So these Morbius pages, I feel like, are some of the best he's ever done when he was drawing physically. Another one of those classic like McFarlane pages with the side shot of the face. And then look at this giant, monstrous, ugly face there. Again, he's giving him a different hair texture. There's something for an artist kind of like to pay attention to. It's just not long hair. It's like this stringy, ragged, spirally, noodly, weird hair. Just makes him look different. The shadowy eyes, the fanged teeth, blood and slobber everywhere. Slobber around the border bottom. It's like he's slobbering from his own mouth, and it's affecting the page itself. You know, it's those little bits like that just make this stuff just work so well. I like, again, Spider-Man put his black costume back on. So I like that shadowy shot of him there. I always like this shot of Spider-Man and his body and his arm as he's trying to pull his arm off that webbing. big, crazy, weird angle shot of Morbius flying by and Spider-Man ducking out of the way. Look, Spawn right there. Just lose the hair, and there he is. You got Spawn right there. Tattered cape, the cloak kind of collar, the vampire collar. And here's that back three-quarter shot of Spider-Man's head. But when you got him in the mask, you don't have to worry about cheekbones and noses and ears and jaw lines. It's just kind of like head shape, cranks back, jawline, especially the black costume, you know, the big white eye. It works, and it reads, and it's fine. And those hyper skinny panels, good fucking Lord. So tiny. Oh, we're back up to twice up, too. He stopped handing these pages off to other inkers, so he's like going back to full size. There's Spawn again. Tattered cape, monsters, debris, and hellscape. Looks great. And then I think this was like the last page of that, the black costume, 2 issues with Morbius, before they went on to, I think, the X-Force crossover where McFarlane stopped drawing for Marvel. Pretty awesome shot. And it's like, the figure's there, and then the webs are drawn, and then the city is drawn behind all these webs in Spider-Man's figure. What a pain in the dick. But you know what? McFarlane's doing it. Look, this page is the twice up almost, and then this one's not. So I guess he's jumping back and forth. Maybe he's got a pile of different pages, and he just doesn't know which one to use, so he just grabs one. So that's all the pages. So we get into covers. Kind of like the beginning of the book. Like, these early ones are great, but I'm not going to spend too much time. We're already an hour into this. This is one of the earliest Amazing Spider-Mans I ever got. I remember paying attention to all this detail in that hand. I'm like, good God, how does somebody do that? These are kind of fine. This lizard one's pretty good. Classic. That's probably, like, how much would that page sell for? How much would that cover sell for? That's fun. Classic shot. Lots of inky Venom symbiote shit surrounding him. Like, it works perfect. Like, he's being engulfed. It's, that's really good. Spider-Man with the, it's where he's got the Captain Universe power, so punching the shit out of the Hulk. That's where he punched him and sent him into orbit. Love it. Then we get into the Spider-Man. That cover. How many times has this been parodied, reproduced, homaged? A million times, including by Spawn, by McFarlane himself in Spawn and other places. Everyone just does it because it's iconic. And it's not like it's the best drawing of Spider-Man ever, but it reads, it works, it's iconic, it's great. This is a more classic kind of cover, you know, hero looking, danger coming from behind in a back alleyway. Cover to issue 2, yeah. Issue 4, psychedelic craziness going on here. Spider-Man climbing through the trees in the Perceptions, yeah, with the Wolverine Wendigo crossover. And issue 5, great shot, Spider-Man and Wolverine teaming up. You can see that blue line stuff all over it. Never seen this before. Marvel Age. You know, I think McFarlane was so popular, they'd throw him a bunch of covers because his design sense and probably his burgeoning popularity. Like, please, God, draw covers for us. Just draw them anywhere. Good shot. Dr. Octopus, you know, in the foreground. You need to see the guy, just his arms, and it worked. But I do like how he drew him in there. What a great shot. Iconic. Edge of a building, Octopus got him twirled up, and the designing element of swinging these arms in all kinds of directions give it a sense of motion and kind of where just like an impending doom and energy to this villainous character rather than just having him come out and grabbing him. So, really neat. Team up with Iceman, Spider-Man, and his amazing friends, right? Kind of a fun shot. Okay-ish Iceman. Always like that. I'm just not sure what it was ever to. You know, old school original X-Men. I love this one with the X-Men in silhouette, like the little glowing glint off Cyclops' glasses there. Always thought that was neat. In the silhouette of Jean Grey, Iceman, I'm guessing back there. Angel, where's Beast? I don't know if it matters. Classic Juggernaut shot. This page, I think McFarlane said he gave this away to somebody or sold it to somebody at an incredibly cheap price, like super, super cheap. And he's kind of like, hey, I shouldn't have let that page go for that little bud, because right now this thing would sell for so damn much. It's super iconic. You know, It's an issue of Hulk, right? But it says DC Comics paper too. That's funny. Oh, he gave it to Peter? Did he give this to Peter David, did he? That's interesting. But yeah, iconic image. How many times has that been homaged and ripped off? Like character up front with some kind of weapon and the reflection of the character behind him. Has this been done before? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it has. But man, this sure seems to be the one, like the dynamic pose and angle that spawned a million rip-offs and homages and that type of stuff. Spawned. Great shot. Love the screamy mouth on Wolverine. Perfect. And that's it. It's kind of a breakdown of McFarlane and himself, his information on him there. And then that big close-up again on the inside pages of the back cover. Just closing up really close on a small panel so we get to see the detail. Looks so great. Anyway, Todd McFarlane Artist Edition. I've been waiting to get to this one because I was kind of trying to spread them out with the John Byrne X-Men and the Jim Lee X-Men. Spread them out, but it was time to get to this, so pretty damn fun. It's not my favorite out of all the three. It's a toss-up between the Jim Lee X-Men and the John Byrne X-Men, but honestly, and a part of me is like leaning towards the John Byrne, and that's not even my era. My era is the Jim Lee one, but that John Byrne one is just so breathtakingly interesting to look at. But there's no doubting that this McFarlane one is full of fun stuff, and the guy is an incredibly talented artist. And for God's sakes, I wish he would just draw a Spawn Spider-Man crossover. Just do one issue, bud. One issue, bud. You could do it, bud. But that's it. Nothing else to say. Great book. I'm going to put it down somewhere. I don't know where. I'm going to find somewhere for it to go. But that's all I've got for now. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time.